Thanks. Anything in here be dead by now.
With the absolute amount of water that covers our planet, it is virtually impossible to know exactly what lies beneath the ocean. But that doesn't stop divers and treasure hunters from scouring the ocean floor for some of the rarest artifacts in the world. Shipwrecks have often been the subject of fascination and controversy. That is why we are going to take a look at some of the most expensive underwater treasures in the world. Before we dive into it, do you like videos full of interesting facts? Check out our friends over at Brainiac for freshly served brain food every week. We are going to kick things off with the ship of gold, the SS Central America, which sank in 1857 off the coast of the Carolinas. The ship was carrying so much gold that it sent the US into economic crisis upon sinking. In 1988, the SS Central America was rediscovered. A judge granted permission to Odyssey Marine Exploration to recover the rest of the treasure, worth $150 million. In 2003, the remains of the SS Republic were discovered by American archaeology firm Odyssey Marine Explorations. The Civil War-era steamship sank in 1865 amid a hurricane while en route to New Orleans. $75 million worth of the ship's alleged cargo was recovered during a salvage effort, which leaves $140 million worth of treasure unaccounted for. Perhaps the most popular shipwreck in modern history is that of the RMS Titanic, which was believed to be unsinkable. This hypothesis proved to be untrue, as the Titanic sunk after crashing into an iceberg during its maiden voyage in 1912. Even after the ship's initial impact with a giant piece of ice, many passengers refused to board lifeboats as they were convinced the Titanic would not sink. Among the ship's 2,224 passengers were the wealthy upper class, as well as their expensive belongings. The total value of the Titanic's treasure is valued at $200 million, but its impact on pop culture is priceless. Robert Ballard rewrote history in 1985 when he discovered the most romanticized shipwreck of all time. In any case, the Titanic is the most well-recognized shipwreck of all time, and its legend lives on to this day. In 2012, the wreck of the SS Gersopa was discovered after the ship sank in 1941. When it sank, the SS Gersopa was carrying 110 tons worth of silver bars and enough tea to accommodate 65% of Britain's total population. The estimated value of treasure on the ship is said to be upwards of $200 million. One of the Swedish Navy's biggest achievements was the Vasa warship. Although it was one of the most spectacular ships of its time, the Vasa sank in 1628. The Vasa is on display in Stockholm, Sweden at the Vasa Museum, and it is said to be the only preserved 17th century ship in the world, which is why its value of $300 million is quite fitting. In the ancient world, pirates were known to plunder ships and enjoy the spoils of their riches. In 1717, a cargo ship known as the Whydah Galley suffered this exact fate when the notorious pirate Captain Black Sam Bellamy captured the ship. Unfortunately for Bellamy, the Whydah would end up sinking 2 months later, along with the pirate captain, most of his crew, and the 4.1 tons of gold, silver, and other treasure. In 1984, Barry Clifford found the ship with the Massachusetts courts backing him up. Since then, hundreds of thousands of artifacts have been recovered from the shipwreck. The total value of the ship's treasure is estimated at $400 million. In 1985, diver Mel Fisher was lucky enough to stumble upon the treasure of the Nuestra Senora de Atocha. Gold, copper, silver, precious jewels, and more, totaling a value of at least $450 million, was found at the shipwreck. Spain sent a fleet of rescue ships in an attempt to salvage the Nuestra Senora de Atocha, but their efforts were unsuccessful as bad weather conditions had scattered the wreckage even farther apart. The excavation is ongoing. A fascinating tale of ancient treasure and litigation began in 2007, after the private treasure hunting company Odyssey located hordes of gold and silver coins at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, which they quickly shipped back to the United States. They were met with a lawsuit filed by the Spanish government. However, a United States federal judge ruled that the US had no jurisdiction over the case and that the treasure, estimated at a value of $500 million, was to be returned to Spain. In 2010, it was announced that the Southwest Maritime Archaeological Group had discovered treasure and ancient artifacts in a shipwreck near Salcombe, England. Among the items recovered on the vessel, which dates between 1200 and 900 BC, were copper and tin ingots, gold bracelets, and a bronze leaf sword. Although researchers are still estimating the value of the Salcombe treasure, it is said to have reached over $800 million thus far. But more than 115 years ago, when computers were not so common, the discovery of the world's first computer system, the Antikythera mechanism off the Greek island of Antikythera, gave us a look at the technological accomplishments made well before the 1st century. Accomplishments that were previously not thought to have been made until the 16th century. In 1959, Princeton historian Derek J. DeSola Price was able to provide solid evidence that the Antikythera mechanism was used to forecast the position of the stars and planets in accordance to the calendar month. Not only is the Antikythera mechanism a scientific anomaly, the one-of-a-kind machine is worth a staggering amount of money. $900 million to be exact. Built during the Tudor era, the HMS Victory was one of the most lavish ships of its period. The British Navy ship, which sank in the English Channel in 1744, was discovered by Florida-based Odyssey Marine Exploration in 2009. It is rumored that the ship was carrying a fortune of gold, which is said to be worth an estimated $1 billion today. The Flor de la Mar, or Flower of the Sea, was a Portuguese merchant ship operating in the European waters during the early 1500s. The multi-purpose ship was used for trade but also used in battle. The Flor de la Mar is believed to have taken its final voyage in November of 1511, as reports indicate that it was wrecked on a beach a month later. At the time of its wreckage, the ship was carrying a treasure which is estimated to be over $2 billion today. Known as the Millionaire Ship, the RMS Republic was one of the most impressive vessels of its time. Famous for its massive size, some 579 feet in length and weighing nearly 16,000 tons, the ship became the main attraction of White Star Line's Boston Mediterranean route. Unfortunately, the ship's massive size did not prevent it from sinking in January of 1909 when it was involved in a collision with the Florida, an Italian steamship which had veered off course due to dense fog. The estimated value of its treasure is said to be $5 billion. The city of Thonis Heracleion was wiped out of existence after being submerged underwater in the 8th century AD. Since its initial discovery, luxurious items such as colossal statues and jewelry have been recovered from the site. In 2015, an intricate statue of a pharaoh and a golden-eyed depiction of the god Osiris were discovered for the first time and put on display in a Paris exhibition. Much of the items from the 40 square mile area remain submerged, and it is estimated that the value of its treasure ranges between $5 to $10 billion. The most expensive underwater treasure ever discovered was aboard the San Jose, a Spanish Navy ship that sank off the coast of Cartagena, Colombia in 1708. On November 27, 2015, more than 300 years later, the shipwreck was discovered by a group of international scientists in a search approved by the Colombian Ministry of Culture. In 2018, the findings were made available to the public, and it was revealed that the gold, silver, and emeralds found on the ship are worth up to a whopping $17 billion.